Good morning. It's a Tuesday, day after Labor Day, September 3rd, and we're coming up on 8:30 in the morning. Do you know where your children are? Well, if they're school-age kids, they're probably on their way to school. All right. Hazards across the country today, your watches and your warnings will start on the West Coast. The orange in Central California is a heat advisory, so be advised it's going to be hot and it's going to be really hot along Southern California coast. Excessive heat warnings here. Excessive heat watch in the deep red for the desert southwest, which includes you, Las Vegas. And then the red flag warnings further to the north in the, I don't know what you call that, hot pink, I guess. And then further north of that, there's a wind advisory for the Columbia River Gorge along the Oregon-Washington border. All right, moving into the plains, red flag warnings here for eastern Wyoming into western Nebraska and South Dakota. A few pockets there in Colorado. And then in Texas is where we've seen all the rain yesterday, which is going to continue today in some places. So we have a flash flood warning in the deep red that looks a lot like the excessive heat watch, but it's a flash flood warning there in Texas. And then the green is the flood watch, as we'll be watching for more flooding. And they've had quite a bit of that, which brings us to our weather spotlight. San Angelo, Texas. Who they do not believe in high resolution graphics, so I had to expand it to fill the screen. So if it's slightly blurry, that's why. But if you're watching on your phone, you probably struggle with this forecast anyway because it's hard to see these smaller print. But anyway, here's what's going on in the San Angelo area. Widespread coverage of showers and a few thunderstorms, heavy rain across west central Texas again today. Could see another 1 to 3 inches on top of. They've had 2 to 3 already, 3 to 4. Anyway, some places have had over 9 inches of rain in this area. So obviously that's going to cause a lot of problems. I don't care how good your drainage is. If you get that much rain, there's just no place to put it. And so that's what we've had. So rainfall heavy enough to cause flash flooding, streets, creeks, streams, other low-lying areas, turn around, don't drown. All of that stuff. And then especially at night, it's harder to recognize the dangers of flooding. So be careful in this area. More rain on top of yesterday's rain. And here's how that looked across the country. And again, widespread West Texas, West Central Texas, even down to the Big Bend. This is showing widespread 1 inch to 2. But again, isolated places have seen up to 9 inches of rain. Houston area has had some heavy rains too, especially along the Gulf Coast. Excuse me. And then as you head up into Arkansas, into Tennessee, northern Mississippi, northern Georgia, southern Kentucky, widespread here of up to 1.5 to 2 inches. North Carolina, another area of some pretty good rains yesterday, up to 2 inches here. And then same for Florida, scattered throughout Florida, up to a couple inches of rain. All right, here's what we're expecting for the next 2 days. And you see in Texas, excuse me again, you see in Texas where they've had the heavy rainfall, expecting more heavy rainfall. So we kind of went over that with San Angelo, but this shows that. And then along the Texas Gulf Coast, maybe even more rain, like up to 4 inches around Corpus Christi here, according to this map. So there's a lot of tropical moisture in the Gulf, a slight chance of some tropical development here, but all that moisture, the entire Gulf Coast of the United States, seeing heavy rainfall right along the coast. And then that also translates up into the Atlantic side of Florida. So up near Jacksonville, a couple inches of rain perhaps. And just off the coast of the Carolinas, you see some lighter rain up there in the northern Rockies. Today's surface looks like this. There's your heavy rain, flash flooding possible, central Texas. Around that, scattered showers and storms all through the southeast. And then the northwest, with our low that's moving through that area, that's bringing the wind and some light rain, maybe even some snow up there in Wyoming, not too far from Yellowstone. All right, let's take a look at the surface for tomorrow. And we see a little bit more mixture on this map. Colorado is included now too. The mountains of Colorado could see some snow. And then the heavy rainfall shifting a little further east into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and a little bit of Florida. And we see our new cold front starting to poke into the United States up there in North Dakota, Montana. We'll be watching that for a big cool off this weekend for many places east of the Rockies. Surface on Thursday, that front makes further progress through North Dakota and South Dakota. Ahead of that, places like Iowa, where I live, there's a slight chance of rain. We're not expecting a lot because it's kind of dry. But as that front approaches, we could see some scattered light showers, mainly in the plains, moving into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and then further south into the plains. That front eventually is going to sink further south and bring another chance, or continued chance, I should say, of rain for Texas and continued cool temperatures. So those hundreds you suffered through, you're getting a big payoff now. Highs today, really the hot spots up there in the northern plains ahead of the new front, mid to upper 90s from, say, Montana down into South Dakota. And then another pocket of mid 90s down in the south, Louisiana, Mississippi. Cooler as you head east and north, but even low 90s in Florida, still kind of warm. The hot stuff, Central California, where we have watches and warnings, and the desert Southwest, where we have watches and warnings for heat, and it's going to be quite hot. 106 Phoenix, 109 El Centro. I can't quite make out Las Vegas. I think that's 106, but I mean, it's hot temperatures here, even 100 up to Redding. And so there's your temperatures for today. Tonight, or I should say tomorrow morning, we're on the cool side again. So 46 yesterday here in western Iowa, 48 this morning, tomorrow near 50. So it's trending up a little bit, but refreshingly cool for the Midwest, Great Lakes, up into New England and the Northeast. Just really nice. Same for the Rockies, as you would expect with elevation. But even some of the lower elevations up in the Northwest starting out in the 40s and 50s tomorrow morning. Even Portland, where it's getting kind of hot, 57 tomorrow morning is pleasant. 80s, of course, to start your day in the desert Southwest, and some 70s in the Southeast with all that humidity. Highs tomorrow. Cooling off up there in North Dakota as our front starts to move. Still hot, and actually hotter along the Gulf Coast. The West Coast. So Eugene, 93 tomorrow afternoon. So it is getting warm, and even hotter in the central valleys of California, well over 100 throughout, north to south along I-5. And then I see a 111 for Lake Havasu tomorrow. So hot in the desert Southwest. And then we see a little bit warmer. Well, not really. West Texas still in the 70s and mid 80s. Very nice. Our mid 90s for Mississippi have been knocked down to upper 80s to near 90. Still hanging on to low 90s for Florida. All right, let's take a look real quick at the European model. Here's the European model. We're starting at 10 o'clock this morning, and we see showers already still. I don't think they've stopped overnight. So showers continuing for much of central Texas, including west central Texas and south central Texas down to San Antonio, and along the Texas Gulf Coast as well. And as we put that in motion, as we go through the day, showers and embedded thunderstorms continuing here. We're also seeing some more rain, mainly for Florida. And then, along the Gulf Coast of the United States is where we're seeing most of our rainfall here. We're getting it towards midnight tonight. That would be this map here. This is 1 a.m. Wednesday Central Time, and the rain continues for parts of Texas along the Gulf Coast and the Big Bend and across the central part. And so, again, our heavy rains shifting tomorrow. This is tomorrow around noontime, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so our heavier rain moving into Louisiana now, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, even parts of the Florida Panhandle. But we start to see our front moving. And so as our front moves, it's going to bring some reinforcing cooler air, I guess you could say, for the upper Midwest, Great Lakes eventually, and even down into Texas. So as we get towards, this is again 1 a.m. Wednesday, and then into the day Wednesday, you can see that front starting to make progress with the showers ahead of it. As we get into, this is Thursday morning, this is Thursday afternoon, and you can just see the light showers mainly, but a few rumbles of thunder here as the front continues to press southward. This is Thursday afternoon, Thursday later in the afternoon, Thursday evening as the front continues to make progress. And again, we'll be cooling off a lot of us, especially here in the northern plains and Midwest. And so as we get into the day Friday, this is early Friday morning. You see that front starting to move back into Texas, so reinforcing cool air, I should say. And the showers continue along the Gulf Coast. That's where most of the moisture is. And so as we get into the day Friday, that front continues to press southward with some scattered showers and storms along and behind it as well. All right, so that reflects on our highs Saturday. So Saturday, we're starting to see things cool off. So look at Great Lakes, highs in the 60s. Highs in the 60s for parts of Iowa and Minnesota. For the eastern Dakotas, 70s as far south as Kansas, and barely 80. There for Tulsa, 81 for Oklahoma City, and low 80s for West Texas. So very pleasant east of the Rockies. Kind of warm for the southeast, but here mid to upper 70s, not too bad. The desert southwest continues to bake. 107 Phoenix on Saturday. Yikes. 91 for Portland, Oregon too, so that's warm. All right. Sunday, cooling off a little bit in Portland into the 80s. Cooling off a little bit in California, especially Northern California, but still hot in the desert southwest. We see a little bit of warmth returning to West Texas, low to mid 80s for West Texas, 89 for Amarillo. Some of the heat returning for the plains from west to east, but still pleasant in Iowa. We're still in the 70s on Sunday, and still some 60s up there in the Great Lakes and up in New England as well, the Northeast. And we see 70s on Sunday all the way down to Nashville, 79. So very nice. All right, our next 6 to 10 days, the cool stuff up there in the Northeast, through the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys down to the southeast and even parts of Texas, but warming up northwest and western half of the country. And precipitation-wise, a lot of dry on this map, but a little bit below average on the precipitation for the northwest and for the southeast up into the mid-Atlantic, and then way up into the northeast as well. All right, that's your forecast through the weekend. That's what we try to do here, and we will try to do it again tomorrow. So I really appreciate you coming back. I guess that's a really big deal for the algorithm, is like not just watching, but then coming back. And if the YouTube sees that people are coming back, then they'll start recommending the channel more. Anyway, thank you so much. I do appreciate you. Like and subscribe would be awesome. And we'll try it again tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic.